Let me get you on camera. Where you from?
California.
No, for real. No, serious though.
Watts, baby.
I know where you from though. Where you from?
Eastside PJ Watts.
I'm from Grace 2 Rock, nigga.
Right.
They call you, homie?
Big Slice.
Big Slice?
Yes, yes.
All right, nigga. They call me Puto, cuz.
Right.
And that person. Big shout out to SPI, Spotter Low. You know, I'm in the black box. Had to come through, tap in, show love one time. Yeah, y'all make sure y'all subscribe. Stay tuned. All that.
Boy, if they off R. Kelly and Michael Jackson, that is two ends of the greatness of spectrum of black music. The king of R&B and the prince, bro. But it seemed like with this new movie, a lot of people talking about they revisiting the old situations, and it seems as if it's leading a lot of people to believe that Mike is a Diddy. And he was the first accused alleged Diddy way back. But O'Shea Duke Jackson doing the heavy lifting, and he's breaking down the problem that the movie is causing for Michael Jackson's legacy. So with no further ado, let's see what he say MJ and the moviegoers have been up to.
Between the years of 1984 and 1985, Michael Jackson was larger than life. He wasn't just known in America. He was known all over the world. Because of how he grew up as a child prodigy, he didn't get a lot of chance to have privacy or even to meet a lot of personal friends. And it just happened to be that he was in New York City at Helmsley Palace Hotel around this time, where he befriended this particular general manager there, a guy by the name of Dominic Cascio Sr. Now, Dominic Cascio Sr. and Michael Jackson would become somewhat of buddies. And believe it or not, Michael Jackson was drawn to this particular family, the Cascio family, because they were just so normal. And because of that normalcy, he actually went to their house and, believe it or not, spent the night. He was there for Sunday dinners. He was like a part of their family.
How normal were they to allow that? They weren't as normal as they appeared.
In essence, Michael Jackson was a person that never grew up, which is why he would have the Neverland Ranch in California, which we'll get into. But Dominic Sr. and his wife Connie and their children adopted Michael Jackson as a part of the family. And to be honest, Michael Jackson...
I gotta say this, man. When I just recently saw an interview, and they was like, here to discuss the movie, Michael Jackson's oldest son, Prince Jackson, to see that non-melanated individual sitting up there holding that title, it just made me lose all respect for the Michael Jackson legacy as far as the man. The music, immaculately amazing. But the man... throw all that away and not leave none of it to our people, that's crazy to me. That just don't sit right with me.
Did a lot for this family. He actually hired Dominic Cascio Sr. to move to California and become not only part of a general manager, but access to the properties. I mean, Dominic went all over the world with Michael Jackson. In the early 1990s.
I keep it in the Google, that could be a natural occurrence to be so pulverizing as a star and be grounded with a certain normal family. That's not that hard to understand.
Michael Jackson would get some of the first accusations about his brand. And this is how he started to lose a lot of support with people in society. And this was with a family by the name of the Chandlers. Now, Jordan Chandler was underage at the time. They were able to sue Michael Jackson for $23 million. And that was a big hit to Michael Jackson's image. Then in 2005, another family came out and tried to...
And looking like that does not help anyone's perception of you when you're being faced with these type of accusations, claims, and charges.
...to Michael Jackson. And guess who came to the defense of Michael Jackson at this particular time? Dominic Cascio.
Let's start with your meeting the accuser, what you know about John Doe. When did you meet him?
Several years ago, about maybe 4 years ago, I met him.
Okay.
And
One thing I'm very upset about is this one person has an alias named John Doe. Why don't they say his name? Why is it always Michael Jackson's name in the media having to get distorted?
This is Dominic Cascio castigating the family by calling themselves John Doe. He's saying, look, why don't you come out and tell who you are? And we also would find out who that family was. Gavin Arvizo. They tried to sue Michael Jackson for some of the same things everybody else did. But Michael Jackson was actually acquitted in this particular trial where he didn't have to spend any money. His name would already be tarnished because of what happened in the 90s. But with the support of his good buddy, Dominic Cascio, everything was all good. Remember, Dominic Cascio had a wife by the name of Connie and 4 kids, Frank, Dominic Jr., Marie Nicole, and Aldo. 2009, unfortunately, we have a bad situation occurring because Michael Jackson would die on June 25th, 2009 at the age of 50. He was preparing for his This Is It comeback concert residency in London, and his death was ruled a homicide caused by acute propofol intoxication. It was so bad, his personal physician, Dr. Conrad Murray, was convicted of involuntary manslaughter in 2011.
You know what? I'm convinced propofol must be extremely expensive due to the fact that we haven't had a propofol epidemic since Michael Jackson passed. Though usually you would think, oh, that's some designer shit Michael's on, and everybody would be trying to grab it and get on it, rap about it. But ironically enough, that hasn't happened. Usually it seems like something like that would take place.
That is how bad it was. So Michael Jackson passes away. Dominic Cascio was his man, 50 grand while he was alive.
Now I'm convinced that Michael Jackson was getting surgery trying to make his chin look more like this gentleman's chin. Was this the model of a face that Michael Jackson was trying to chase? Because look how many features he seemingly took of this man and of his own replace. Especially that chin. Damn. Think about it. Look at it, man. That's the identical chin. Is that Mike's natural chin? I don't know.
And that should be the end of the story, right? In 2019, there would be a very scathing documentary called Leaving Neverland, Surviving Michael Jackson. This was, in fact, released by HBO.
That's not what Oprah did. Nah.
And it would talk about the lives of 2 young men who knew Michael Jackson, Wade Robson and James Safechuck. And again, this also did a lot of damage to the brand of Michael Jackson. But funny enough, despite how bad this documentary did to the estate of Michael Jackson, these guys never got any money. HBO actually got sued from Michael Jackson's estate because they broke some kind of rule, and HBO settled out of court with Michael Jackson's estate. Damn. But this was not all that it seems. Michael Jackson's estate wouldn't be out of the clear because guess who would come back looking for some money? The Cascio family. Shortly after the Neverland release documentary, the Cascio family did something that Wade Robson and James Safechuck wouldn't do. They would capitalize on the fact and say, listen, we have all of these charges against Michael Jackson. He groomed us. He raped us, the 4 of the kids. This is what happened. Now, this is interesting because Dominic Cascio spent all of this time defending Michael Jackson's honor. He lived on the Neverland Ranch with Michael Jackson. And so now the same father who's benefited from Michael Jackson is now allowing his kids to come out and say, Michael Jackson was hurting me. So let me just ask you this. If you live in a certain place with your 4 children and your wife, and something is happening to your kids, would you not know that something is going wrong? I mean, just think about it. Either you know something is going wrong and you're just ignoring it, or nothing is going wrong. Either one is still bad parenting. But if A is correct, meaning that your kids were being mistreated by Michael Jackson in that way, and yet you did nothing about it, that makes you less of a man. But then you're going out and
Definitely does. When you think about some of these allegations floating around associated with this Davis situation and what the parents of Celeste may or may not have known, it's crazy to imagine that it's parents like that exist. But that's going on way back then. Those allegations come up in the R. Kelly situations, and now even in the Michael Jackson situation. Parents look a blind eye, even facilitate.
saying, well, we didn't know, or the kids are saying, we didn't know that he was basically brainwashing us and doing this until we got older. And this is something that many of the people who sued Michael Jackson's estate, they use that, particular same thing. It wasn't until I got older until I realized what he was doing to me.
Stop the cap.
And then we get to April 24th, 2026. This is when Antoine Fuqua releases the biopic called Michael. And, well,
critics are calling it extraordinarily sanitized. The performances are getting praised, the songs are recreated almost perfectly, but everything that makes Michael complicated, they cut. And there's a reason that they cut it. Antoine Fuqua was making a full career biopic. It was $155 million. Everyone had said that Jafar Jackson's performance as his uncle was uncanny, but mid-production, the estate's lawyers caught something in an old contract. The contract in the 1993 settlement with the Chandler family, the family of Michael's first accuser, has a clause in it that prohibits the portrayal of their family in any Michael Jackson film ever. The scenes covering the 1993 allegations were reportedly cut, and they had to reshoot for 22 days, making the budget climb to over $200 million. The family settled reportedly for around $23 million. No criminal charges were filed. Michael denied the allegations his entire life. That's the family that the movie can't legally portray, and that's why it ends in 1987.
So there are certain things in the movie that obviously is not going to be out there. Now, this is important because the movie has done over $200 million in box office sales, and it really has painted, from what I understand, Michael Jackson in a very good light. The life of Michael Jackson ended in 2009, but it stopped in 1987 when Michael Jackson had largely no allegations against him. And so right before this biopic was supposed to be released, this same Cascio family is suing Michael Jackson again. Now, it's important to know that secretly in 2020, they got about $14 million, all right? They have been getting paid that from the state for a long time. Now, this doesn't mean that Michael Jackson
is on top of the 23 for a total of 37? Whoa.
Was guilty of any of this. It just was better to keep it under wraps because they had leverage, and it would have looked bad for former people, insiders who knew Michael Jackson, to then come out and say that this abuse happened. So they paid each of the four siblings $2.8 million over 5 years. In exchange, the Cascio signed a non-disclosure agreement and promised not to sue or to speak publicly. But then that didn't happen. In January 2026, they appeared in a Beverly Hills courtroom, and they weren't suing for abuse. They were trying to stop private arbitration. They were trying to say that this dispute behind closed doors was actually hush money and it was illegal. And now they wanted a public trial. And so that happened officially on February 27, 2026, when four of the siblings filed a massive federal lawsuit in Los Angeles. And
when I
Against a dead man? Knock it off.
was retained by the Cascio family, the first thing I did was have each of the five siblings give me sworn testimony on video. I ended up with 10 hours of testimony detailing the horrific abuse they suffered at the hands of Michael Jackson. At the invitation of Marty Singer, the lawyer for the estate, I showed him an hour of that video, and his response was, "This will never see the light of day. We're going to resolve this. Make me an offer." I made an offer, and instead of him honoring his word, he took that and went public and accused me of extortion as a defense to addressing the actual crimes that were committed.
the timing of this was epic. Like, filing the suit just as the Michael biopic was hitting the theaters was seen by many as a strategic move to maximize pressure on the estate. I believe now what they're looking for is something of in the upwards of $200 million plus. And I just wanted to talk about this and kind of spin it in my own way. Number one, Michael Jackson, despite his international fame and glory, and this whole idea of Michael Jackson and skin lightening and skin bleaching himself to where maybe people didn't associate him being black anymore. And I get that he had a problem with that. But the whole idea is there are no black people who are...
Come on, O'Shea. It's hard to even discuss him as a black person. Like I say, the way he left his estate to some people who are not black whatsoever. How do we even move forward discussing him as a black man? I just can't. It's hard.
Alleging anything wrong against Michael Jackson. It hasn't come from any of his kids. It comes from these people, in this case, the Cascios, who were ardent supporters of Michael Jackson. And now all of a sudden they're saying that this happened. And this is one of the things that successful black people have to understand when you're dealing.
This is my thing, man. This is what the bed Michael Jackson laid for himself. Like I said, if he wasn't so invested of being accepted by them Caucasians, he probably wouldn't have been dealing with none of these things on any of these occasions.
Let me get you on camera. Where you from?
California.
No, for real. You know, I'm serious though.
Watts, baby.
I know where you from though. Where you from?
Eastside PJ Watts.
I'm from Grace 2 out, nigga.
Right.
They call you, homie?
Big Slice.
Big Slice?
Yes, yes.
All right, nigga. They call me Puto, cuz.
Right.
You wasn't that person. Big shout out to SPI, Spotter Low. You know, I'm in the black box. Had to come through, tap in, show love one time. Yeah, y'all make sure y'all subscribe. Stay tuned. All that.